గారు shall I, sir?
Yes, sir. You can introduce. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Is it visible, sir?
Yeah, visible, sir.
It's my privilege to introduce the last speaker of 3-day online faculty development program on sustainable engineering, my colleague, Dr. H. Prasad Raju, Hemadri Prasad Raju. So, working as associate professor in the Department of Civil Engineering of Sri Vidyaniketan Engineering College, Tirupati. He was graduated from Sardar Vallabhbhai National Institute of Technology, Surat, in civil engineering and masters in environmental engineering from GCT Coimbatore, Government College of Engineering Coimbatore, and PhD in civil environmental engineering from St. Peter's University, Chennai. Dr. Raju has 8 years of industrial and 19 years of teaching experience. He has guided over 30 undergraduate projects and 4 postgraduate projects. He has published over 25 papers in the national and international journals and conferences. He has organized national conferences, seminars, workshops, and short-term training programs for students and faculty, sponsored by CSR, ICMR, DRDO, and ACTE. Dr. Raju had involved in the design, execution, and commissioning of effluent and sewage treatment plants for paints, pesticides, dyeing, paper, and pharmaceutical industries. He has the life member of Institution of Engineers India, the Institution of Valuers, and affiliate member of American Society of Civil Engineers. Above and all, he is a good person, a good teacher. So it's my privilege to introduce him. So I welcome you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So
Thank you.
now I request you to take up the session, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for introduction.
Now you can share your PPT, sir.
Are you able to see the PPT, sir?
Yeah, sir. Slideshow button. Yes, sir.
So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, all my colleague friends and participants friends. So I am going to explain about sustainability aspects of waste management. So this is my presentation outline. I'm just going to brief about the 3 elements of sustainability. Then human activities leading to adverse effects on environmental quality, comparison of some past and present day-to-day activities, India's urban transport problems, then balanced ecosystem, hierarchy of waste management systems, case studies. Suppose if you change from motorized vehicles to non-motorized vehicles, what are the benefits? Then if municipal solid waste management is done in an eco-friendly manner, what are the benefits? So this sustainability, it can be shown as two alternative views. Like sustainability has three components. Like this, society, environment, economy. And the first, this left side picture shows you interconnecting of all these three elements. And the right side, this each element embedded in another elements like. So what are the adverse effects on environmental quality due to the human activities? So human activities, of course, they are for the economic development and also for well-being, well-living. So these are the major environmental components that are concerned for sustainability: the soil quality, water quality, air quality, noise, and thermal. So if this, if take the first letter of all this, it is SWAN. If the above all these five components of environment taken care and maintained properly, then all will be set right, and then we can have real sustainability. So soil quality, if you take how human activities that are affecting the soil quality or deforestation. So what happens is when we do the deforestation means we for various purposes we occupy the forest. I mean for in economic developments, for construction of new projects or highways. So for so many things there will be a deforestation. So what will happen due to that is there will be some ecological imbalance and topsoil erosion, and it may lead to some floods and climate change, that is change in temperature, humidity, rainfall, etc. Then also sometimes we change the land pattern. That the land use pattern sometimes we may convert forest area into agricultural or other like industrial projects construction. So various for even for the residential buildings construction. So by doing so, what we are doing is we are obstructing the natural flow, water flows, and also because of removal of the forest area, there will be change. There will be climate change also will be there. That is temperature change, humidity, rainfall, etc. Then also when we dispose the industrial effluents on land, so industrial effluents without treatment, disposing on land, it will pollute the soil quality. So disposal of domestic waste also, sewage also when it disposed on the land, it can also pollute the soil quality, which we have been seeing at some places. The lands becoming barren lands, like nothing can grow there once they are stagnated with the effluents. And okay, then disposal of solid waste also, if solid waste is disposed, so like municipal solid waste, industrial solid waste, and biomedical waste on land, that also pollutes the soil quality. Subsequently, suppose some solid waste contains of some biodegradable matter, so some moisture will be there that will cause leachate, and that will also pollute not only soil, can also pollute the groundwater also. Then on water quality, so human activities that can affect the water quality are So we are using sometimes excessive use of chemical fertilizers and also pesticides. So for our gardens and for for farming, agriculture areas, if we use the organic farming, if we do, we already know that that will give more benefits than the using chemical fertilizers. This chemical fertilizers, why we are using is why we need to go for chemical fertilizers, why we are not able to use organic farming, because that availability of natural manure has become scarcity is there. So that's because the because of increase in population, for the more demand for the food production, and more area is like cultivated, and at the same time the number of animals which give dung, that are it is simultaneously reduced, actually not used. So people are going for mechanized farming, that is using tractors and other things. So this sometimes whatever these chemical fertilizers and pesticides used in the farming, they will are not all are not going to utilize by the plants. So during rainy season, some of them which are not utilized may run off with the rainwater and reaches the water bodies. So the water bodies gets polluted. Some these fertilizers like nitrogen, phosphorus, they can lead to algal bloom, what we call it as a eutrophication. So that will affect the aquatic life present in the water bodies. It will not allow the light to pass inside of the water bodies. So there are many adverse effects. And disposal of hazardous chemical into the water bodies. Suppose in a river and other big lakes, even small streams and ponds also, if there are nearby, some industries are there. So industries are disposing their wastewater and solid waste sometimes into these river bodies and lakes. So that is being polluted. And disposal of plastic waste also cause a lot of some animals aquatic life get entangled in the plastic waste, and they suffocate and die. So it is happening. And disposal of e-waste. So e-waste contains some toxic chemicals like mercury and lead, nickel, lithium. So this type of heavy metals, they are when disposed into the open environment. So that will be leaked into the environment, and it will reach the soil and water. So the life in water all got affected, aquatic life, and also of course the other thing is that they take up all those materials and it will be reaching us ultimately, because we are takes the production, that means fruits, vegetables and other grocery, all things coming from the plants, right? So they absorb all those toxic chemicals, metals, heavy metals, all those things, and it will be reaching ultimately to us. So then disposal of industrial wastewater, so that is causing a lot of pollution to the water bodies, and disposal of municipal wastewater. So all these are disposed without treatment, proper treatment. So this will cause a lot of pollution and a lot of impact on the water quality, and impact on the plants, animals, depending on that water, and also the indirectly human being. And air quality, also human activities that affect the air quality, or industrial process emissions. For example, I just listed here a few only, but there are many types of industries which emits the emissions. Electroplating, casting, metallurgical processes, cement industries, granite industries, stone pressing units. So there are a lot of dust and other pollutants, air pollutants like sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. So all these air pollutants are emitted into the atmosphere due to this industrial activities. And thermal power plants emissions are too high. And mining operations also cause a lot of dust and other pollutants entering into the air. Not only that they enter into the air, also water also get polluted. Then refineries, manufacturing process also emits a lot of air pollution. And dispose the wastewater from the refineries, it will cause pollution on land and also water. Then transportation, vehicular emissions, you have been seeing in the cities, particularly a lot of pollution. We will be unable to breathe air in cities like Delhi. So then utilization of chemicals from paints and painting process also cause a lot of air pollution. So then let us compare some of the past and present activities. So just guess, which leads to sustainable development. So past activities and present activities. If you compare these two past and present activities, you can guess which leads to sustainable development. That is, suppose if you go to the shop or purchasing, groceries, some items. So they used to give, do the paper packing and give. Some 2 or 3 decades before, when we were, child and teenagers, at that time when we got to shop, they used to give in paper packing. So once you bring that, materials and put into your maybe tins, some steel tins, boxes, cans, and the paper, if you throw it out in the environment, that will not cause any problem to the environment. It will just degrade. The paper is degradable. It will degrade within 1 month, or if it is put just if you moisture it and dispose it, it will degrade even within 2 weeks also. But nowadays, if you go to the shops, the present activities, already they are packed materials. They just give things in the plastic materials. And when you come home and you use that material and remove that plastics, this will become a lot of daily. We are seeing a lot of plastics, throwing into the environment. Of course, we are municipality and panchayat, they collect, but where they dispose, somewhere it has to be disposed. The proper burial, proper compressing of all that plastics and properly buried, then it will not affect much. But if you throw into the environment just like that, it is going to get much affected. Then if you take earlier, some, before these cell phones became famous and cheap, landlines were used. So that was not a problem, not causing any pollution. But nowadays, cell phones, if you see, every 6 months or once in a year, the models will be changed. And people are also interested to buy new models. Those who can afford to buy, they will buy. So when we buy new models, new cell phones, leaving even the working cell phone, so as discarding, it is you are wasting the discarding means a lot of waste will be generated, and these cell phones, what it contains, it are very toxic chemicals. So this batteries contains the lithium battery. It has the lithium heavy metal, and it contains nickel battery, nickel. So all those are metals. Heavy metals are very toxic once it is disposed. So it becomes environmental problems, and so indirectly we only get affected of, because it reaches the water bodies and soil where it can enter into the again. So what is called food chain. So then most of the people, earlier days they were using bicycle and public transport, but nowadays if you see, people are using mostly motorbikes and car, jeeps. Of course, not many people, but still the relative percentage of people using the motorized bikes, all these things has increased compared to the bicycle and public transport. And this is a major also, causing the pollution in the cities and towns. Then this organic farming, I told you already, this organic farming has nothing, it will not cause any pollution. It is more beneficial, but chemical farming, chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers when you are using, so that is causing a lot of pollution. Then earlier days, you will find in many of the villages earlier earthen roads and all, but nowadays you will find everywhere, even small villages where there are 10 houses are there, also you will find cement roads and tar roads. So okay, one way it is better, they will something they are harvesting, they can try on the cement roads, so they will utilize, but still some portion of the area is reduced, which can be useful for infiltration of the rainwater. So this cotton cloths, earlier the people used to use the cotton cloths and khadi cloths. So that is nothing much to do some process and all, but so not much pollution will not be there. But nowadays we are using the jeans, polyester, nylon, where the people, the manufacturing of that involves more and more processes and dyeings. Dyes are used for that. It will cause a lot of pollution. The present activities are like that. And people used to have the natural food earlier, but nowadays mostly the processed food. So natural food gives more benefit than the uh, the processed food. Then why we are going for, people may can ask why we are going for that, because time, people think that there is no time to prepare naturally, so they'll try to have the processed food. So many things are also processed and kept in shops to ready-made things to buy and eat, like that it is happening. So it will affect the health. And earlier, people used to have this mortar and pestle or stones for preparing their say pachadi foods and all. But nowadays, people are using mixies and grinders. This one way they are consuming power, external energy source. So those are attending. The youngsters may not be able to. Maybe some from town and city, my participants' friends may not be knowing this mortar and pestle stones. I can show you have the pictures here. You can see this, very tasty. If you prepare in this mortar and pestle, this is the stone mortar and pestle. This is the wooden. Where the red chilies they are, crushing, and they're making pachadi here. This is the shika they are crushing here for head bath and all, very nice, the natural things. And here they are preparing some medicines. So in this black stone, used as a mortar and pestle. So like this, earlier people used to have. Even nowadays also you'll find in remote villages and some places. So that is actually better than using all this. But nowadays, even you will find in cities, towns also, they are made available. But so people, if they find time and use it, that will be good. But because of this, fast, what do you call, things are moving. People not find time to do all that. So, and another one is oil in extraction from the vegetables and other things. So this wooden oil press and mechanized oil mills, if you see in the past, they were used to have this wooden oil mills. Sir, excuse me, sir, are you there, sir? Yes, friend, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, this instead of co-host, can you give me a host, because this every time the people are entering and they just showing here. Admit like that in Zoom.
Oh, nobody is there. I'm here only.
Uh,
Don't worry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, sir. So wooden oil press, that is when you extract the oil from the, groundnut or coconut, using the wooden oil press. This is a this is a traditional method. But nowadays, they are using the mechanized oil mills where they extract the coconut and groundnut oils and other oils. So the ginger oil, all that is losing their nutritious things. So I just show you that here. Also, I got pictures, benefits of that. So here, this is the one wooden press, wooden oil press. The earlier in days, they used to extract the oil from the vegetable. Vegetable oils like groundnut and coconut and ginger oils. So this is also called wooden gurney or maracheko, right? So you can see this. So what are the benefits of wooden gurney or maracheko oil? That's a wooden oil press. Now you get the oil retains the freshness and flavors within it. Helps in preserving nutritive value within it, so thus increasing the storage quality for a longer term. New age refined oil will be heated to this is in the mechanized oil mills. What they do is they heat at 230 degrees centigrade. That will result in loss of most of its nutritional values and destroying omega-6 fatty acids, and helps this wooden oil press, when you extract the oil, it helps in reducing bad cholesterol and allow the human body to store good cholesterol. So the presence of these phytosterols helps in reducing and completely block bad cholesterols in the human body. So this cold pressed coconut oil, this is a wooden oil press, helps in reducing the hair fall and helps the hair growth by providing necessary proteins for your healthy and shiny hair. It helps in providing the minerals such as magnesium and calcium that will directly help in the growth of bones. And cold pressed groundnut oils, it will be rich in vitamin A, vitamin D, and vitamin E, with abundant resource of monounsaturated fats and proteins. And this cold pressed wooden oil press is a cold pressed peanut oils rich in monounsaturated fatty acids that helps in lowering LDL, also known for bad cholesterol, and increases HDL. So increasing HDL is good compared to the to lower the LDL. So this type of if oil is extracted from the wooden oil press, this is a traditional method. So India's now let us coming to this one. This one, India's urban transport problems. So in India we have on the roads heterogeneous vehicles. There are about 32 classified vehicles. Cars, bikes, buses, trucks, tractors, auto rickshaws, cycle rickshaws, bicycles, horse carts, man pulling cars, bullock carts, e-rickshaws, etc. So many turnings, short roads and junctions. You will find many turnings in our roads and short roads and junctions and speed breakers at many locations and too many vehicles on the roads. Then growth of motorized private vehicles are manifold. So this private motorized vehicles growth is manifold because of the economic growth. So you can see heterogeneous vehicles, a lot of different things, bullock carts, horse cart. You will find all type of vehicles moving on the roads, even high roads also, highways also you will find. And we unfortunately we also find many speed breakers, even if it is not necessary. At many places also they used to provide speed breakers. And it will be difficult to travel on that type of where we have so many speed breakers. And you can see the congested with these roads congested with the vehicles. You'll find at places in Indian cities. So this growth of motorized private vehicles, if we see, look at number of registered vehicles in India. In 2001, there were about 5.5 crores. In 2011, that's within a short of 10 years. That is, then there was IT boom was there. So the economic, the purchase power of the people has increased, and you will see 3 times this 14.2 crores registered motor vehicles, 3 times increased within 10 years of span. And within another 5 years, it is increased to 19.5. This is totally from 2000 to 2006, 15 years, about 4 times it is increased. And this 70 to 80% of these registered vehicles are motorcycles, which also produce, generate a lot of emissions, polluting the cities and towns. The vehicles growth rate is 5 to 11% per annum. The physical infrastructure has not been able to keep pace with the growth in demand. And if you look at registered vehicles in cities, Delhi has about 1.1 crores of motor vehicles, almost equal to the population. So per person, one motor vehicle. That we can understand the how much, why the Delhi is the worst polluted. Not only first rank in India, it is in the world. Okay. Then Mumbai has got 36 lakhs motor vehicles, and Kolkata 17 lakhs, then Chennai 50 lakhs, and Bangalore. See, this Mumbai compared to other Chennai and Bangalore, it is less, 36 lakhs, because for many years, the long back, they have constructed, they have, they have the suburban trains system. So many people used to travel by suburban, make use of that suburban trains. So that's why I think the motor vehicles, in Mumbai is compared to less, and Calcutta is less, because I think in Calcutta people still follow their traditional methods for transportation. And in Chennai about 50 lakhs, then Bangalore 80 lakhs. Bangalore is very high because there was only bus transportation and no other transportation was available. But now they are constructing the suburban and metro trains facilities. That's why in Bangalore, after the Delhi, if you see the pollution levels in other cities compared to Delhi, after Delhi, you'll find more in Bangalore. And in Hyderabad, 53 lakhs. The right side, the total this motor vehicles in state wide, and you can see here the Delhi vehicles. Out of this 1.1 crores, they have about 32 lakhs cars. That means for every 3% one car, and 70 lakhs bikes. That means every person has bike. So auto rickshaw about 1 lakhs, e-rickshaws about 1 lakh, and buses about 6,200. So the congestion, high on in Indian cities. See, not only because of the vehicles, if you keenly observe on the Indian roads, some work they start newly, some construction of metros, or widening the roads. Something will be going on, some works, and due to also congestion will be too high. They will block the road for new constructions. It may be suburban trains, or for metro trains, or metro flyover bridges. So some work is always so with that it will also increase the congestion. So the rapid growth in private vehicle ownership has led to increased congestion problems in cities. And that's why if you see in cities, you find the average speed of traffic in key Indian cities, it is about 17 to 23 kilometer per hour. So it will take, if you want to just travel about 40 kilometers, it will take 2 hours. So like that. But whereas if you outside normal places, it may take hardly 45 to 50 minutes. So that is how in the cities it's a problem with the traffic height, heavy traffic. So if you compare the average cycle speed is 15 to 16 kilometers per hour. So if one go by cycle without any obstructions, you can travel about 14 to 15 or 16 kilometers in a 1 hour. It is all equivalent to the with going by bike or car. So and this slow movement of motor vehicles causes increase in air and noise pollution. There's another problem. If the vehicles are moving slowly, the consumption will be there always, and you will find a lot of air and noise pollution. So fortunately now it is they are realizing that it's better provide some cycling facilities like separate cycle lines. So in Bangalore they have proposed to start bicycle sharing system in 2018. So and people trying out here this they are trying out this cycle sharing service in Pormangla, Bangalore. So cycle tracks in Bangalore city, the residency road from Bishop Cotton Boys High School to Ashirvadam Circle, considered one of the well done cycle tracks in the city. Coban Road stretch from Manipal Towers has been constructed only for one-way traffic and is not wide enough for two-way cycles. Madiwala Lake Track and the Jayanagar Track from Ashoka Pillar are failed examples. Maybe that were not properly constructed, so it is a failed here. The another two roads are there properly placed. A cycle track should be free from encroachments. That is the thing. So it should be free from encroachments, wide enough for two-way traffic, at least 3 meters, or at least 2 meters will do, but 3 meters may be finding difficult to widen such a. So continuous and at a different level than the main road. Should be continuous and also at a different level. If it is there, it will be convenient for the cycling. So Bangalore with the city to have a public bicycle sharing system soon, including 384 cycle parking hubs. So cycle parking hubs they want to provide. Then which was announced in the state budget last year. Residents can now use this cycle to work, cycling to for the working and also for leisure. So when they go to office or school, colleges, and for leisure, they can utilize uh, the cycle tracks if they once they're ready. So like that, if all the cities they are going to provide, then there will be some amount of reduction in the pollution, and people health also will increase. Not only reducing the because of reducing the pollution, and also because of the cycling. It is like exercise for the people. So people has to walk minimum 8 kilometers a day. But nowadays, due to all this, available motorbikes and other car, jeeps, people trying to utilize it. They are habituated to utilize that, So they are not even in a day 1 or 2 kilometers of walking. So that will actually cause the health problems. So people should walk at least 8 kilometers in a day. That means whenever we are going for shopping or so it's better always to walk and take some bags carry with and get things without plastic bags. So this has to be people either parents or teachers in the schools at the early stage. Yes, people are children are told this type of things problems due to that, then they will, I think, realize and it will be more beneficial. And so one can improve the cycle track force by, we always think of some mechanized equipments, how the efficiency can be. That's also right. But even this non-motorized cycles, when you improve the cycling, the force required to, operate the cycle where to cycling, you can, more people also will try to utilize that, and they can even travel for more distance. So what we can do improve is lowering the friction between hub and ball bearings and providing gear system using less weight materials for fabrication. So like this type of things, if newly comes up, some new innovations also will help, many people will try to utilize the cycles. And the governments can provide separate track for bicycles and cycle rickshaws. So government has to provide separate, in the planning stage, in the design stage itself, they should plan for the separate tracks for the bicycles and cycle rickshaws. And also government can implement a scheme of free distribution of cycles to the students, and also public bicycle sharing service, like in Bangalore, how they have proposed it, just to come up in many cities. Then only it will be very good. Such a scheme should they bring. And so cycling tracks encourage more people to shift to cycling, apart from easy availability and accessibility to the cycles for last mile connectivity. So many advantages are there. One is the health will be improved, and the pollution will be reduced, and of fuels will be saved. So many advantages if you go by utilize the cycles for small short. It may not be for long distance, but you can use for 4 or 5 kilometers very easily cycling. You can see it is in other Netherlands and Netherlands, some other countries, they have provided separate tracks are provided for cycles. You can see how well they are provided, how they are, cycling, they are enjoying and moving on their tracks, cycling tracks. You can see here many people are traveling by bicycles. Then coming to the balanced ecosystem, or is also called environmental friendly ecosystem. So balanced ecosystem means it has mainly two functions. One is that sun energy transfers through the system. The other one is, the main thing is that the materials transfer takes place within the system in a balanced manner. So materials will be cycling within the system, within the ecosystem. It may be a pond ecosystem, or it may be a lake, or a river ecosystem, or if you take the sea or oceans, if you take the big ecosystems and forest ecosystems. So you can think of small ecosystems to very big ecosystems, but in all the ecosystems, if it is a well balanced, it is an eco-friendly ecosystem, means you have the materials getting recycled within the system, and only energy only flows through the system. Means from one trophic level to another trophic level, it will flow, and some heat will be lost through when transfer from one trophic level to another trophic level in the food chain process. So here very neatly explained here about the this ecosystem. So if you look at this two things, that is, one is sun energy is passed through the system. It will be lost as a heat in each and at every trophic level. Some amount of and the sun energy will be lost as a heat while utilization. So plants in the photosynthesis process utilize the sun energy and take up the carbon dioxide and moisture in the atmosphere, and they make the glucose, carbohydrates. And from the plants, the herbivores and carnivores, so they consume the plant products and plant leaves. Okay, then these plants, which are you can say the withered plants, or died plants, and died animals. This they are. You can see this dashed arrow marks here. Detritivorous. That is, detritivorous is the microorganisms which will decompose this dead animals and dead plants. So they will decompose. So ultimately, what happens is the decomposing actually into soil, like nutrients. You'll get nutrients and water. And while decomposition, there will be production of the carbon dioxide, so and water that will be used again by the plants. And the nutrients also, the decomposition process ends, then so the ultimate result of the decomposition process by microorganisms is nutrients and water what you'll get. So this will be utilized by the plants. Once the rain comes, these nutrients will be dissolved in water and it will absorb through the roots, and plants will grow. And then again that will be taken by the animals, and that will be again after death of animal, that will be decomposed like that. This is the cycling of the materials within the system. So these two things happens in the in the balanced ecosystem. One is sun energy is transferred through the system, and materials transfer takes place within the system in a balanced manner. So that is the thing that this is a sustainable ecosystem. And so whatever the concepts and working methods are framed for the economic development, it should be within that purview of the balanced ecosystem. Then only it is possible to achieve sustainable development. So when it comes to sustainable waste management, it means that the discarded materials are to be returned to the ecosystem in the form in which it is required. So that's what I was telling you in the beginning. What are the waste generated in industries and municipal waste or biomedical waste? These things are disposed electronic waste, plastics, but you have to convert into the the form in which it can absorbed by the plants. Okay, so the treatment is required. So treatment, of course, it consumes extra energy, power source, and that again will be causing the lot of pollution. So, but it has to be treated to maintain the good quality of the environment. But somewhere and other, there will be some generation of pollution. So the best thing is to go for the, I showed you one table, the past activities and present activities. So if you adopt to the past activities, there will be good control of the pollution. So this some examples I want to tell you here. If you take municipal and solid waste, industrial effluents, that when disposed without treatment, causing a lot of pollution, and it will not be taken up by the plants. If takes also, it will be plants will die and animals will die. The ecosystem will not function properly. So if you, as I told you in the that past and present activities, when the option for you have the cows, oxen, buffaloes for ploughing and farming instead of tractors. If you use tractors, that nothing will give. It will only create general air pollution. But if you use this, they will give dung, which is manure for the plants. So like that, we have to be wise wherever possible. People has to rear these animals and use it for the purpose required. And even the mortar and pestles and stones instead of mixies and grinders. So where this mixes and grinders need external energy, and external energy is generated by some thermal power plants or nuclear power plants. They are very highly polluting in the generation, electric generation plants, and nowadays even diesel power plants also there, naphtha power plants also there. So whatever it may be there, but they are using the fossil fuels for generation of electricity, which produces a lot of air pollution. So we may think sitting here that the electricity that we are using is all pollution free, but somewhere it is generating the pollution when it is generated. So uh, it's better always to go for these traditional methods and cycles and cycle rickshaws, horse carts instead of bikes and cars and jeeps. Then what is required here is minimal use of external energy sources. So external energy sources, if you minimize, then automatically you can really contribute to the sustainable development. And also this economic development, the fast economic development it is not necessary actually. It is that you have to go in a stable manner, keeping intact the quality of the environment, because ultimately that is only save us. If the environment is not having the good quality, and all will be badly affected. So that is the benefits of the clean and green environment that we are thinking and planning to transfer to the future generations. So we have, if we follow these traditional methods, as maximum as possible by many people, then we can really transfer the the good quality environment that which we like, and that will be transferred to the future generations. And also see here, if you look at this, the plants we have, It is, I would like to bring one thing here, that harvesting plants and trees lead to sustainable development. If you harvest, only means that whatever that will give, that fruits and vegetables and whatever that, if you harvest, you will get the, you will have the sustainable development. But if we exploit or cut the cutting of trees will lead to global warming and climate change and finally destruction. So this is what we have been seeing nowadays because of the exploitation and cutting of trees. So instead of harvesting the what we get from the plants, so that we have to look into that aspects also. And there is one hierarchy of waste management options. So what type of different things that we have to follow? Various options that we need to follow when there is no another go, and we have to make the products for economic development. So first thing is we have to prevent wherever possible the pollution, generation of pollution by using less material in design and manufacture. We can even think of using the eco-friendly materials instead of some chemicals for manufacturing the products, and keeping the products for longer and reuse. So the products that we make should last for longer, so that the waste generation will be less. And we should be able to reuse that and repair well. So like that, we have to make the processes, good, in a good manner. So okay, it should be durable, whatever the products are made, and using less hazardous materials. So that's what required to, one option for preventing the pollution. And if that is not possible, at least preparing for reuse. So we should be able to reuse, check and cleaning, check how we can reuse. We have to, that's the checking and cleaning, repairing, refurbishing, and whole items of spare parts. So should be available and use it, so that we can reuse also a best option. Suppose if the prevention is not possible, and recycling of the material that we use for making the products. If they are reusable, recyclable, then it will be still better. You need not go for natural resources in exploitation of natural resources, because if they are limited. So natural resources, when you are doing mining and explore, trying to explore at ores, for various things. So that will again will be polluting. So if the materials made, if the way it is made, if it is going to be recycled easily, people, then it will be more advantageous. So turning waste into a new substance or a product, that is recycling includes composting, or if it meets the quality protocols, and other recovery also, that is includes anaerobic digestion, then where you can produce the methane gas. Suppose if you take food waste and other biodegradable waste, you can generate the biogas. And incineration with energy recovery. Incineration is actually failure option, because it generates a lot of pollution. But of course, it depends on the type of material you incinerate. If you are incinerating the e-waste and plastic waste, definitely it is not at all advisable. The other wood and other waste, if we incinerate and require energy for produce energy, it will be better. And also gasification and pyrolysis, which will produce energy. The fuels, heat, and power, and materials from the waste. Some backfilling also can be done, and finally disposal. Also, final disposal. So landfill and incineration without energy recovery. So these are preferable options from top to bottom. Then companies has taken responsibility towards the sustainable business, like resource recovery, quality construction, then waste management, including identify the waste, then you try to prevent the waste and minimization of pollution within the manufacturing processes by going for some research in manufacturing process, trying to replace, changing the raw materials, like eco-friendly raw materials, and products also. Suppose one instead of that particular product which is polluting more, if they go for other product which is less polluting and also the same purpose it will be served, then it's better go for the type of products and business operations. Then complying with all applicable environmental laws, regulations, and permits. Then I will just show you just two case studies, and after that, I will end my this lecture. So this case study is actually what we did is keeping idea that suppose if you convert from the motorized vehicles to the non-motorized vehicles, by suppose you are getting a you are becoming environmental conscious, and so you don't want to now further use the motor bikes and all. So for going for 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, you can go on foot, you can walk very well, and you can utilize your own energy instead of wasting your own energy. And if it is about 4 to 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers, you can easily go by bicycle. So like that, suppose if you convert from a motorized to non-motorized, then what will be the savings in fuel and what will be the reduction in the carbon dioxide emission? So like that, we wanted to study, and we have taken up one case study like from Tiruvallur to Chennai Central. There are 21 suburban stations are there, railway stations. So what we wanted to study is there's people who are coming by bikes and auto. In cities you will find mostly share autos also, so they'll come by share autos also. uh, I will show you that. So at each and every station, we have some parking areas are there. So people are, some those who are having the parking area, they will collect also for parking monthly some 150 rupees or 300 based on the type of vehicle. So the type of parking areas. So people are also wise. So this some distance they will go by these vehicles and they will utilize the suburban trains, public transport, and they go to the office. And again, while coming back, they will take it back. So they will, they will, they reduce the risk of going by bikes and also the uh, save the fuels. So you will get season tickets in the very at the cheaper cost, suburban trains. So what when we so you can see this parking places like this, you will find that each and every station people used to have give for tenancy. So people okay for bikes and cycles and whatever it is. So you can see number of at some stations the parking of these bikes. So the idea is suppose if they convert. So during survey it was found that about 20% of the population are coming from within 2.5 kilometers distance. So within 2.5 kilometers distance, they are coming by bikes or cycles or share autos, and they will park that vehicles there, and they will go by suburban trains. And while coming back again, so they will take back that. So and monthly charges they will pay to the parking area people, the parking owners. So if at least 10% of the people could change their mode of transport to either bicycle or cycle rickshaws mode of transportation by becoming self-conscious about the environmental pollution, then the savings in fuel consumption and the reduction in the greenhouse gases, I'll show you here. So these are the number of vehicles trips, 10% I have taken. Totally around 30,000 in this 21 stations, we are around 30,000. I will show those tables also, what we have data collected. 10% of that is 3,213 vehicle trips. Vehicles actually, if 10% of the total vehicles parked in that 21 stations, suburban stations in Chennai from Tiruvallur to Chennai Central. So one stretch actually. The other stretches also we have in Chennai, suburban trains. So suppose this many vehicles, if you assume that they are coming from 2 kilometer distance, and 2 and 4 will be 4 kilometers. So multiply this vehicle number of vehicles with the 4 kilometers. Then you will get this total 12,852 kilometers total distance traveled by this number of bikes vehicles every day within 2 kilometers, right? So So instead of now, what our idea is, instead of going by bikes, if they convert into bicycles, then what will be the savings? Then auto rickshaws. If some people are, these are number of trips, 10% of the total trips, right? And that is the total distance is this by multiplying with the 4. So assuming 2 kilometer distance from the stations, this is 13,128 kilometers. So so now you this many distance. So we know the mileage of bikes. So you can see here, this is the distance traveling, right, every day. And you about suppose bikes, if you take average, mileage is about 40 kilometers for 1 liter. And so for this many kilometers, the cost is going to be 321. Sorry, so many liters. This is for this many kilometers, then you need 321 liters. Okay, 321.3 liters per day. And auto rickshaws, this many for this many, so auto rickshaws, some average mileage is about 20 kilometers per liter. Then for this many kilometers, you need this many liters. Okay, liters. So now the total distance is 25,000, both bikes and auto rickshaws. Okay, this many kilometers, and total petrol daily consumption is this much. And this is the CO2 generation in kg per day. So from the bikes and auto rickshaws. So this is, we arrived at this from the standard values. CO2 generation during the combustion of 1 liter of petrol, it is 2.3 kgs. And diesel consumption, it is 2.7 kg, but here it is assumed everything is petrol only, so 2.3 kgs per 1 liter of petrol consumed. Then okay, so this is the per day consumption, and per month this is the consumption, and per year this is the consumption, 3 lakh of 4,711 liters. And this greenhouse gas CO2 emission is this is the per day, and this is the per month, and this is the per year. So now we can see, suppose per liter is 80 rupees, and for this many liters, per year is about 2.43 crores. It is nearly about 2.5 crores we can save. Suppose if this 10% of people are assuming within 2 kilometers from the suburban stations, if they convert into coming by bicycles or on foot. So if they come by on foot, it may take 20 minutes or 25 minutes or half an hour. So they can start early and can come, or cycle means maximum 5 to 10 minutes. So like that they can save about 2.5 crores. Okay, and the greenhouse gas emissions also will be reduced about 7 lakh kg. That is about 700 tons of reduction of the greenhouse gases also will be there. So this is the number of vehicles parked at each railway station. We data taken. Number of parks there in the nearby suburban stations. Tiruvallur, these are number of bikes. This is number of bicycles parked there, and cars and auto flying trips. So at the Putlur, this many vehicle, bikes and bicycles. So like that, you will find Savapet Road, like that. 21 stations are there in one stretch from Tiruvallur to Central, Chennai Central. So 21. Okay, 21 stations. Totally bikes, if you take the park is 32,130. So 10% of it I have taken, right? 3,213 I have taken. And if you just see here, bicycles also there substantially also. If it is compared to bikes, it is 1/3 bicycles. But if you convert, do the reverse, like if this number of bikes becomes number of bicycles, and the number of bicycles becomes the number of bikes, then you will have a lot of savings, and also the reduction in the pollution. And it's a good health for the people. So for that, government has to have that. Earlier shown you that sharing by cycle sharing system. They should provide some cycle hubs at some places in towns and cities, and also they provide, if possible, also they can also not only sharing system, also they can provide the cycle distribution to the students free of cost. And also at some places they also employ some mechanics to repair these cycles, but in cities normally you will not get much repair, no puncture and all. Only in villages where some thorns will be there, and roads may not be well, so there you have some, but still providing at some places mechanic repair mechanics will be better, so that the people will not have a problem. So this is about the uh, converting from motorized to non-motorized. Then I would like to show one more case study where the management of the municipal solid waste. So it is eco-friendly municipal solid waste management at Gandhinagar Panchayat Office, Vellore in Tamil Nadu. I was really impressed there, how well they were managing the municipal solid waste. It is very, really beautiful. And if you see that it's a very small area they have got their panchayat office in the premises has only 1,500 square meter area. Within that area itself, they are have all this and they are renting service to the that panchayat. Under that panchayat area, there are about 2,400 households. Then they employ 30 employees for working of collecting the waste and segregating, and also biocomposting, storage, selling, all that is beautifully they are doing. And they're able to get rupees 6,000 salary per month from the municipal solid waste management. And biodegradable waste is composted and sold as organic manure to the farmers. And non-biodegradable waste is segregated and sold for recycling to the vendors. And ultimately, you'll find only 5 to 10% of waste is disposed. So you can see this is the tricycle they use. It's called eco-friendly tricycle. So no need to go for any battery cycle, or no need to go for any, the motorized vehicles. So they collect using this eco-friendly tricycles. So here, this tricycle has two chambers. So like this, they have eight cycles, eight tricycles, and each 2,400 houses. That means each tricycle cover about 300 houses. They leave by 7 o'clock in the morning and come back by 11 o'clock. Then after that they do the segregation process. So in this you can see two colors are there, right? There are two bins in this two chambers. So in the green color chamber they used to put the biodegradable waste, and the other in the red color chamber they used to put the other waste. So recyclable metals will be there. So some metals, plastics, glass. So all that will be put in the this red color chamber. So while collecting itself, so what they did is beautifully they have given two bins for each house, and they asked the residents to segregate at the source itself, and ask them to put. So they have given two color bins. One color is green color bin, and another one is red color bin. So in the green color bin, they have to put the biodegradable waste, and in the red color bin, they have to put the other waste. So they will, at the time of when they go for collection also, they will give those two bins, and separately they will put into their respective chambers in the tricycle, and they will bring here to the panchayat office, where they have these sheds for constructed small sheds 10 feet by 10 feet for segregation. You can see the segregation process that they are doing here. So the back chamber is having the recyclable materials. I mean, yeah, the plastics, metals, glass. Other than the biodegradable, all other metals are put into this chamber. So they segregate into different materials. So you can see the gunny bags separating and putting into this. And so if you see how many types of materials they are segregating, you will find steel vessels, and just approximate rate also they have told this is the price at which they are selling to the vendors. Steel vessels 40 rupees per kg, and iron rods and plates 20 rupees per kg, aluminum cans, kitchen vessels, bulb caps, battery coverings they are selling for 8 rupees per kg, and laminated aluminum packing covers 50 rupees per kg, plastic pipes, mugs, pots and buckets 30 rupees per kg. So plastic glucose bottles that rupees per kg. Like that, you can see number of different items they are segregating. Okay, and this is the rate at which they are able to sell to the vendors. So vendor people, they come and buy from them, and they send for the recycling. You can see all these different even notebooks, so craft boxes, English magazines, and thin plastic materials, the discarded papers, then glass bottles, Horlicks bottles. Okay, per number they used to, per one bottle they used to get 3 rupees. So then beer bottles also, new bottle 4 rupees 50 paise, and old bottles 8 rupees. So like that they will get money once they segregate and keep it, store it. Okay, and the eggshells powder, the eggshells also will be discarded, right, after taking the inside things. So that eggshells, what they do is they will dry it and they will make it powder and they will sell it for 50 rupees per kg. So there are people, nursery people, they buy to grow the rose. Rose plants will grow well with the eggshell powder. So they are able to sell for 50 rupees per kg. So like that, so many material, when they segregate these different materials and keep it stored, and the vendors will come and buy. So like that, so they will able to make some generate the income. And this is the after the back chamber, after removal of the recyclable material segregation, they will come here to this what you call garbage composting center, and that is there only within that panchayat premises, only within the 1,500 square meter, everything is there. So here then they will remove this biodegradable waste, that is the food waste and any leaves, flowers. So all these are biodegradable. Any fruits, vegetables, discarded, spoiled fruits, vegetables, all these things, they when put into dustbin and put into this green chamber. And here what they do is they are also rearing about they are rearing how many some animals, about 8 or 10 animals, buffaloes or cows. So that dung also mixes, and the urine also mix here, and they are put into the you can see in this picture here, they are filling this this is decomposing composting tank is called. Okay, so it will take 4 days to fill up this, the waste that they get every day, and 4 days they fill, they will get this much of they will waste within 4 days, and they will fill like this each tank. So they have about 17 tanks. So this 17, so by the time they fill all the tanks and come to the first tank, so they should have been composted. It will take maximum 40 to 45 days. So so that will be removed afterwards. So you can see this there are about 17 tanks are there, and he is actually the panchayat secretary, monitoring the works here inside this biodecombustible composting shed. So you can see the storage also, storage place also is there. The segregated metals are stored, and the composted manure, this fertilizer now stored here. So this will be sold. So ultimately, what they will be getting is about the amount collected from the residents. About they collect about 50 rupees from each household, and 200 rupees from other like commercial buildings, like businesses like community halls and marriage halls, cinema theaters, so like that they will collect, and they collect up totally that amount, about 1,20,000 rupees will come. Then income from composted materials, about 40,000 they will get. So from composted materials, by selling that
కొంచెం హింట్
organic
ఇవ్వాలని
manure,
మెసేజ్ పెట్టాను, క్లోజ్
about
చేయమని. చాలా
40,000. Then income from recovered materials, they'll get about 40,000.
అయిపోయింది,
Totally 2 lakhs.
మళ్ళీ టైం ఉంది, మళ్ళీ
So
మీటింగ్.
they get totally 2 lakhs. So this amount will be shared among 30 people. So good employment is there for some poor, downtrodden people, and also they also generate by beautifully managing the solid waste. These are eco-friendly waste management is one thing. Another one is also it's called decentralized, solid waste management. So for the particular area, like that, different areas it can be done separately. So that is possible. Very beautiful, it can be done. So with this, I my ending my lecture. Uh, I hope you would have understood this my entire my lecture and helpful to you. I am thankful to our beloved HOD, Dr. S. Reddy Garu, and our principal sir, Dr. Krishnamachari Garu, and our chairman sir, and CEO sir, and our all management or the institute management for providing this opportunity. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Raju garu. So there are a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Could you please stop sharing? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah. So the question is, so which eco-friendly solution you will suggest for Tirupati to Tirumala transportation? Because many private vehicles are increasing day by day, so instead of public transportation. So what sustainable solution, eco-friendly solution you are going to suggest?
So this is the mainly so the Ghat road. So Ghat road bicycling is difficult. So if you want, if you go for like battery buses, I don't think that they have that track power to go such a high gradient. So they have rope cars, like some proposal is there, but up to what level it has been is in the planning stage or any work has been done on that. But eco-friendly solution is the best way is only walking only on foot only. If many people try to go, and the thing is, if they provide a more, slow, instead of steep gradient, because people when walk on the steps, it may be like a steep gradient. But if they are able to provide a road with less gradient, and some people, elderly people, may not be able to walk actually. So if they provide, this wheelchairs, so the youngsters, I mean their children, teenagers, and they will be able to take them well. So like that, that facilities if they provide, definitely the eco-friendly way of transportation will increase. The people will start moving in that way also, instead of going by their own car and jeeps or bus transportation and bikes and cars. So that will be, I think, best if they provide facilities. Wheelchairs can be moved with the slow, with gradual gradient if they provide.
Yeah. So there is another question. So whatever the methods you have discussed till now,
Yes, sir.
these are outdated and the technology is advancing. How these are relevant today in
Yeah,
the
this
future
is
generation?
not like outdated. What I wanted to tell you is there are the traditional methods which will really, we have the sustainable development. If we follow that, it just it actually now the life is fast moving life. People say they not have time to use the traditional methods and all. But in villages and other areas also, even though they have got the time, they will be wasting time rather than utilizing those traditional methods. Because simply available these mixie grinders and TV, these various things, mechanized oil mills. So everything they will trying to purchase, ready-made things. But if this wooden oil press that I showed you, it will nutrients and all, it will be preserved, and it will be good for health. So like that of things, government should encourage and provide concessions for establishing those type of traditional methods of extracting the oil. So all these things, this people also should become educated. Means try to convert themselves by looking at those advantages. They will get that consciousness. Then only it will be a good improvement. That will be sustainable development. Sustainable in the sense the pollution will be reduced, and we will pass to the next generations the very clean and green environment.
Okay. So, as there are no other questions, so I would like to conclude
Yes,
with consolidating all the outcomes of the lecture. So, I thank Dr. Hemadri Prasad Raju for his lecture on sustainability aspects of waste management. So, he first focused on 3 elements of sustainability, then adverse effects of human activities on environment. So then soil quality, water quality, air quality, noise quality, thermal activity. So thermal quality, then comparison of the past and present activities. So how people were using the activities in ancient era and now. So then the choosing or adopting sustainable activity, which one is better for you for the future generations. Then air pollution control measures. Then he focused on balanced ecosystem. Then hierarchy of waste management options. Then companies' responsibility towards a sustainable business. Then he has discussed 2 case studies, one on suburban stations from Tiruvallur to Chennai Central, so on air pollution control and other measures. Then solid waste management at Gandhi Nagar Panchayat office at Vellore. So I thank Dr. H. Prasad Raju Garu for his valuable lecture. Thank you very much, sir.
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all the participants so for your patient listening throughout 3-day FDP. So I thank once again so my colleagues, those who have supported in organizing this event, and Prasad Raju Garu, Mr. Yoraj, and Mr. Purushottam, and other colleagues. So thank you very much. Thank you one and all. Good
Thank
day.
you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your opportunity to me.